What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige with Paige, and today we're going to be talking through my 5-star predictions for 2023. Hello my darlings, welcome to this video. This is the next installment in my Pages of Chaos series where I'm wrapping up 2023, and today we're going to talk through the 5-star predictions that I set at the end of 2022 to read in 2023 and how I did. I was putting a few gambles on here, so I want to talk through the books and what I ended up rating them and if they were 5-star predictions. I will caveat that my 5-star feelings this year for 2023 have been super odd. Let's dive into the books. The first book I have is Blackwat Sister by Zen Cho, and I read this for Suffer-a-thon where I read the last chapter of the books to see how I'd go. I pretty much knew straight away that this was going to be a 4-star read. And I was correct. It was beautifully done and the Malaysian culture in this was so intricately explored, but there were so many points that I got a little bit lost with it that it wasn't that 5-star read for me. I know that Kara adores this and I'm so happy that she gifted it to me because it is stunning. I do want to reread it as well. And when I have put a lot of distance between me and the last chapter, it was definitely an interesting reading experience, but it reinvigorated my desire to want to pick this up and see how we get to the last chapter. It didn't really spoil anything for me by the time I did get around to read it from start to finish, but I just knew that the writing style and the way that things were discussed wasn't going to be that 5-star feeling. But I'm still happy that it was a 4-star read, and I knew going in that that was probably going to be a bit of a gamble one. The next gamble one was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, and I gave this 4 stars. I gave Skyward 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed this more than Skyward because what I had heard was Spencer was less of an annoying shit, and that was accurate, but I still just didn't get into it. I'm not fangirling over this series as much as everyone else was. I definitely will continue on with it. I'm enjoying the series, I'm just not loving it, and I did really like where the story goes, let's go with that, and the way that Spencer is having to adjust in different situations. But I did also miss a massive aspect of what I loved about in the first book. It wasn't prevalent in this, so that made me not love it as much because the one element that I did love from the first book wasn't in this, and I was like, oh man. So 4-star read for this. The next one I have is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, and this was my third and final gamble, and I gave this one a 4.5. I fully appreciate it's a me problem that I didn't give this 5 stars. I adored the writing in this, but I could not deal with the animal abuse and the way that things were described. My audiobook also fucked up, and so it skipped back to part of the beginning, and because I was walking and listening to it rather than sitting in immersion reading it, I was just very lost and confused and thought it was part of the narrative till I realized that no, actually I've definitely read this before and had to re-find where I was, and it became more of a frustration rather than just a flow on of the narrative. The way that this is designed is so interesting, and I did enjoy what I read, but oh, my heart just can't deal with particular forms of animal abuse, and the way that it was described was just way too much for me. I do appreciate how amazing this book is and the commentary that is in it, and I definitely think if I was to reread it, I could potentially enjoy it that bit more, but I'm worried I still wouldn't give it a 5 stars because of the animal abuse being the harder bit for me to reconcile with rather than my audiobook fucking up. But I'd like to immersion read it one day just to see if that reading experience is enough to make it a 5-star, and or I pick up things that I missed the first time and can have a more resonating experience with it. The next one is Court of Lions by Samaya Dowd. And this is where I know my reading was fucked for this year because I gave this a 4.5, not a 5-star. This had everything I loved about Mirage. It doesn't have the same oh, doesn't have the same spark. My spark's gone out. I definitely could see the world a lot better this time. I think Mirage definitely took me by surprise, and whilst it's a desert-inspired sci-fi, the sci-fi elements, I couldn't really remember that much. So when I was reading this, I was like, oh yeah, that feels familiar, but also slightly different. I love our protagonists. I love their dynamic. I love what they go through and how they choose to address things. I love the side characters so much. And there is not a single reason I shouldn't have given this a 5-star. But I can tell you in my gut, it is not. And that hurts. The last book that I have is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. And I read this before my spark drizzled out, and I gave this 5 stars. I adore this book so much. The overall series, I think it was the second book, was probably the lowest rated for me, but I love these characters. I loved seeing their dynamic. I love Sherlock Holmes being involved. Just everything about this was what I wanted it to be. It is such a fun book, and I loved the setting where we're following Mary, who is in a bit of financial pickle following her death, and just the adventures that she ends up having. And oh, the dynamics in these characters I can't deal with. They just are perfection on a stick, and I loved it so fucking much. So 5 stars. I am not surprised. I did say in my 5-star prediction video, if this wasn't 5 stars, I would cry. So I don't have to cry. I can cry from happiness, but I just really fell in love with this story and very happy to have read it. In case you couldn't tell, in ranking order, these are my 5-star predictions. I had 1 5-star, 2 4.5s, and 2 4 stars, which, to be honest, is, I thought The Only Good Indians, Court of Lions, and The Strange Case would all be 5 stars, and then I was pretty sure Blackwat Sister and Starsight would either be the 4, 4.5 or 5. So I'm not surprised. I'm just glad that none of them were a 3.5 or lower, because that would have killed my soul. But I'm very happy with my little 5-star predictions and getting to read these off my TBR. So I'll leave a link down below, the original video and the other versions of this that I've done, as well as my 2024 video, so you can see what my predictions are for this coming year. I've already forgotten them by the time of filming this video, so that's great. I can remember 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's all I got. We'll see how this year goes, hey? But those are my 5-star predictions. Let me know in the comments, did you have any 5-star predictions that you were hoping to get to this year? And did you get to them? Are they 5 stars? How did you go with it? Or if you just want to let me know your most recent 5-star read, because I'd love to add it to my ever-growing list of books I'd like to read. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you on my next video.